U.S. middle-aged white Americans with relatively low education are experiencing rising mortality from alcoholism, drug addiction, and suicide. Now, that's all at the same time that every other racial and ethnic group somehow has decreased, but this has increased. So something has gone terribly wrong.
Well, I've thought a lot about this, and I think the main, what we need in Maine is we need younger people. Take a look. It looks almost like a lecture for Social Security. Okay, so that's one thing. We really need to encourage as many young people. We also need more women. Today I saw a thing that said a lot of men, white men, were committing suicide. And I almost thought, yeah, great. And then I thought about it a little more, and I thought, well, maybe you shouldn't say that in public. But really, we need more women.
Death rates among white Americans ages 45 to 54 are rising, even as those among every other age, racial, and ethnic group in the United States are in decline. The finding comes from research conducted by Princeton economists Angus Deaton and Ann Case, published Monday in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Deaton and Case, using data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, among other sources, concluded that the skyrocketing death rates among less educated, middle-aged white Americans, especially, are due to epidemic levels of suicides and issues stemming from substance abuse, such as heroin and prescription drug overdoses and alcoholic liver disease. Deaton and Case also found that there were concurrent declines in self-reported health, mental health, and ability to work, as well as increased reports of pain.
Hi, my name's Devon Teru, and how are you?
You can look, but you can't touch. I don't think I like you much.
White men are killing themselves. Middle-aged white men, suicide rates are on the rise. Now, I've been hearing about this several times over the last couple of weeks, and I decided to look into it. And of course, I'm not a professional commentator on these things, but it interests me. For one thing, I've had 3 family members that have killed themselves in the last 6-7 years, and I've had about 8 to 10 friends in the last 30 years that have all killed themselves. All of them white men. All of them. And white males basically have no representation in our country anymore. We're sad, we're stupid, we're to blame for everything. There's nowhere for you to go, white man. Just nowhere to go. You know, white men need not apply.
My stride, don't need rhythm, don't need groove. Drinking in a rocking band, going down, party time. I'm going to the promised land. I'm on the highway to hell. I'm on the highway to hell.
Now, hidden factors, an investigation into tragedies that are tearing thousands of families apart. And one group in particular is proving to be more vulnerable than others: white middle-aged men.
We've come to learn that more men are successful on their first try than women.
It's middle-aged white men who are taking their own lives in increasing numbers. So consider some of the things middle-aged men are going through. They near retirement. The kids grow up and move on. Maybe they're getting older. Perhaps it can seem like life is shattering. What can replace it? A loss of purpose, loneliness, maybe depression. I got the idea to cover this story.
I think just knowing that this is a group that's vulnerable is a great first step.
After sitting down with Lori Osachi,
I think retirement or not being able to retire, they both are triggers.
a counselor at the Body Imaging Counseling Center.
It's hard to reimagine your whole identity.
She opened my eyes to the fact that families need to realize this group is as vulnerable as any.
A lot of times men have trouble asking for help in general or admitting they're in pain.
Take this study from 2015 by the National Academy of Sciences. This graph shows white males between 45 and 54 are dying more frequently than U.S. Hispanic men and men in other countries. Two big contributors: drug use and suicide.
They tend to use methods that succeed. I hate to use that word, but they tend to use guns more, where women tend to use pills, or and it's easier to be found and be brought to the hospital when you've used pills than when you've shot yourself.
So what to do?
So to look for other signs that aren't verbal.
Osachi says watch.
Saying, you know, I'm feeling suicidal.
And don't be afraid to recommend counseling.
When a person is suicidal, they're not rational.
Or even intervention.
You have to be very directive with someone who's thinking of killing themselves.
Now, he didn't mean to do that. All he was thinking about, I'm sure, was his own pain.
Bob only wishes they had known about the pain.
Healthy people don't take their lives. How do we tell he was going to and somebody else isn't going to? I don't know.
But eventually, it was too late.
So sad. While some signs of suicide can be more obvious, like talking about wanting to die, there are more subtle ways, subtle signs to watch for as well. If someone gives away important possessions, behaves recklessly, has dramatic mood swings, changes eating or sleeping habits, talks about feeling guilt or shame, or withdraws from friends and family. If you're concerned about a loved one or you need help immediately, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's a 24-hour number, 1-800-273-8255.
And now some disturbing findings about suicides in this country and how the rate has continued to climb for more than 15 years. A new report highlights some of the reasons behind these patterns, and as Amna Nawaz reports, it is issued at a moment when two notable deaths have drawn more attention to the problem.
The deaths of chef and TV host Anthony Bourdain and fashion designer Kate Spade this week underscored some grim numbers. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. In 2016 alone, nearly 45,000 Americans died by suicide. CNN announced today that Bourdain, who took viewers to locations around the world in his show, died at the age of 61. Spade, whose handbags and accessories made her a business mogul and a fashion icon, died Tuesday at the age of 55. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's latest report found suicide rates have increased in nearly every state in America since 2000. In half of all states, the rate rose more than 25%, and some of the largest increases were in the mountain states and the Midwest. That includes rural areas where incomes can be stagnant, poverty can be high, and where financial stress can add to pressures in middle and low-income American families. Experts in the field say there are almost always multiple causes of suicide. And in fact, the CDC reported this week that 54% of people who died by suicide over the last 2 decades did not have a known mental health condition.